Hi guys, thank you for joining this video. This is Danielle. I'm gonna go over real quickly another type of garden diagram, which is a multi-phase garden diagram. I mentioned it in a previous video about garden diagramming. This is a simple way to use PowerPoint to create a diagram of what you want to be in your garden at different times of the growing season. So you can see how your garden is going to change and perform over the growing season. So let me just really quickly correct this shape fill so we don't see that. Okay. So this first slide is for my 2025 garden phase 1, which will be February through May. This is zone 9. So all of the circles are grow bags or pots, and the squares on the perimeter are raised garden beds, and the square in the middle is an earth garden that's about 6 feet deep with soil that's been developed over many years. So I basically lay out where I want the plants to be, as I mentioned in a previous video. Things that are more acidic, I'll put in a grow bag or a pot if it is viable for that. And if not, then I would really have to want to grow it, because most of the raised beds and the earth garden are for plants that are alkaline or neutral, because it's a lot more challenging to keep soil at a higher pH for plants that love that type of soil, or maybe you have a plant that does well in rocky, unnourished soil. So for those plants with those unique soil needs, I don't put them in the raised beds or the earth garden. But basically, it's the same principle I mentioned in the video. I have rosemary and other herbs that parasites do not like in between flowering and fruiting and leafy green plants. So in this first phase, amaranth is actually used for callaloo. So in case you're wondering what that is, but I have collards, rosemary, amaranth, rosemary, green beans. Your green beans, of course, will be nitrogen fixing, whereas your leafy greens will be nitrogen loving. So they work in conjunction with each other to keep the soil nourished as one plant is taking out the nourishment. Over here, I usually keep herbs over here, or tender lettuces. You can see that. Okra, corn, peas, and beans in the middle. All around, I want the pollinators to fly across the garden. So I have milkweed, marigolds, berries, wildflowers, zinnias in the different quadrants of the garden, so that the pollinators will go across the garden. And then similar plants are co-located together so that we keep similar parasites relegated to certain areas of the garden, and we're not just all over the place as far as trying to control different parasites. And then this is the first phase. So this will last up until about April, May. Then this is color coded to signify the summer growing season. So okra, corn, sweet potatoes, those will still be around in summer. But these other plants will be rotated out. So the green leafies, the legumes, those have shorter seasons. And the big thing is, you can see in phase 1, up here I had green beans. In phase 2, I had mustard greens. So I switched a legume and switched it out to a hardy green that still has tender leaves. So you want to confuse any parasites, because you don't want to grow the same thing in the same place 2 plantings in a row, typically. Same thing over here. In the spring growing season, I had tender lettuce and kale. In summer, hopefully these green beans will come to fruition. This is by a fence, so it doesn't get full sun all the time. So we'll see how that shakes out. The okra will still be in the ground. Sunflowers will still be in the ground. Moringa tree will be fine. Um, Watermelon will still be growing. It'll, of course, be harvested in this season, but it'll still be around. Um, and all the other plants will pretty much still be there. Now, what I did do is over here in the spring, I had cucumber by the fence. Um, and this tends to get a little bit hotter in summer, even though there's a little bit of shade. So I moved the cucumber closer to the house to get a little bit more shade. Same thing with the peppers. The peppers actually won't be here. They'll actually be underneath the patio. Um, so, and as things need to be moved around, you know, if they get a little bit too hot, we can always say, hey, oregano will move you closer to the house, um, so on and so forth. Okay. Then the winter season. So of course things will get planted in mid to late September for the winter season. So the winter season will bring in the brassicas and the hardy leafy green plants that can survive our winters. Our winters are getting more severe here in the South. Um, so we'll definitely be watching the different plant varieties and which ones do well. So you can see here now I have cabbage, still have the time, it'll probably die out. Rosemary will stay. Rosemary will survive it all. Carrots will do well over the winter. Might need to cover them if things get bad, but they will do well. Cabbage will do well in grow bags as well as in the raised bed. In the herb garden, I'll have broccoli, collards, kohlrabi is another type of brassica, rosemary, cauliflower, mustards, and more mustards. Then we'll have kale, spinach, tender lettuces, same thing, duplicated near the house. Not sure if moringa will survive or if I have to bring it inside. I need to do more research on that. Same thing with ashwagandha and burdock root. We'll have different bulb plants, so tulips and things that need to be winterized. Same thing with bluebonnets. They'll be in the ground and covered with mulch. Of course, they won't be flowering until April of the following year. Same thing with the blueberry and raspberry bushes. We'll need to make sure that they do get a little bit of frost, but of course they won't be fruiting until the following. So beautyberry, same thing. Keep it, but of course it won't be fruiting. So we might have 2 or 3 more beautyberries. We might have 2 or 3 more blueberries, raspberries. They just won't be fruiting. Same thing with tea. I want to see if this variety of tea is frost hardy or if it needs to be replanted every year. I'm not quite sure. This is my first year doing tea. Same thing with ashwagandha. So I'm learning. And I encourage you to do the same. You know, if you've been growing for a few years like me, you kind of know the system. But, you know, every year challenge yourself to do something you've never done before and to grow something you've never grown before. So yeah, this is a 3-season Zone 9 Houston Urban Garden plan. Not true to scale. It's just telling me exactly where I want things to be, what's going to be in what phase, and pretty much how many plants I'm going to have. Okay. In the next video, we'll take it another step further. So we'll give each grow bag a number, and we'll document each plant's pH preference, its germination time, its time before it produces fruit, if it's a fruiting plant or if it's a flowering plant, and whether it's frost hardy or not. So basically just a cheat sheet for each type of plant, and not just each type of plant, each variety of plant for the seed that I have. So I'll have to take my seed catalog, which you saw me organize early on in the season, document the varieties I have and all the information I just mentioned for each variety. And that will help me understand timing and when to look for what. Then make sure I document every growing bag I'm going to have and assign it a number. And once I figure out that numbering system, I can come back to my diagram and say, okay, this is going to be grow bag number 1, right? And in this season, this phase of the growing season, it's going to have yellow straight neck squash. But what variety? Well, my spreadsheet is going to tell me that. I don't need to get that deep into the weeds on the diagram, but the spreadsheet is what I use to figure out, okay, in grow bag 1, I'm going to have this in this season, and so on and so forth. And you may lose grow bags. So like 1 and 2 will be viable spring and summer. But unless I plant squash in late spring for a fall harvest, we're just going to have the same producing squash. So I might do a butternut. I might throw in a butternut in this season that gets planted in April, right? But it won't be in grow bag 1 or grow bag 2 because I mentioned that confusion of we don't grow the same thing in the same bag or the same place 2 times in a row. So I won't take, yellow straight neck squash and then in another season try to grow a butternut, right? Because I don't want the squash bugs to say, oh, okay, all I have to do is stay around here and, in this little area of the garden and something will come along. No. Okay. So more on that to come, and this will keep advancing. So after I do the spreadsheet, and we'll come back to this and see how this diagram is going to evolve. All right, thanks so much for watching this video. God bless you. I hope you're learning a lot, and keep watching. Have a blessed day.